Most people think war is loud, explosions, gunfire, screams, but they're wrong. Real war is silence. That moment right before everything hits, the breath you're afraid to take, the second you realize you might die here. My name is Logan Price, Team Sergeant, 5th Special Forces Group, and this is the story of the day I should have died. Najaf, Iraq, January 27, 2007. We were supposed to be the rescue. One of our teams, ODA 322, got pinned down outside the city. A raid had gone wrong, very wrong. They called for help, and we answered. We rolled out fast, 2 Humvees, miniguns mounted up front, our Iraqi brothers behind us, the ICTF, 20 of them, 10 of us. That was supposed to be enough. But within minutes, we drove straight into hell. Fire from 3 sides, machine guns, RPGs, enemies pouring out of buildings and berms like ants. I remember the dust clinging to my face, I remember the taste of copper in my mouth, and I remember the fear. Not for myself, but for my men. Bullets tore through the trucks, rockets slammed into walls beside us, every heartbeat felt borrowed. My gunner, Ramirez, fired until his ammo ran dry. Then he did something I'll never forget. He drew his pistol and kept fighting. I looked at him, covered in dust and blood, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't a firefight, this wasn't combat, this was survival. Before Najaf, I thought I understood war. I had years of combat experience, years of training. I believed preparation could get you through anything. But nothing prepares you for chaos. For the moment when plans fall apart, for the moment when the only way out is through. My name is Logan Price, Team Sergeant, 5th Special Forces Group. I joined the Army when I was just 17. Didn't even finish high school. I thought wearing the uniform would make me a man. I learned quickly that it didn't. My first years were with the 8th Infantry Division in Germany. This was before the wall came down. 2 Germanys back then. But I didn't want to be ordinary. I wanted more. 9 years later, I volunteered for Special Forces. Selection, Q course, I earned my tab, and I joined 5th Group. Before the war, 5th Group was the forgotten group. Nobody wanted the Middle East, everyone preferred South America, Europe, Asia. Then came 9/11, and suddenly, 5th Group was the front line. We worked in Iraq, in Afghanistan, deserts, mountains, cities. Our job was to work with Iraq's best, the ICTF, Iraqi Counter-Terrorist Force, their equivalent of Delta Force. Each troop had 20 Iraqi operators and 2 Americans. We trained them, we lived with them, and when the bullets flew, we fought beside them. They weren't just allies, they were brothers. And on January 27, 2007, those brothers needed us. ODA 322. Another Special Forces team had been running a direct action mission near Najaf. A raid against what they thought was a minor target. But when they hit the compound, they got hit back. Hard. They were surrounded, pinned down, taking casualties. Their situation reports were getting worse. Multiple wounded. Taking fire from all sides. Immediate extraction requested. Then came the worst sound of all, silence. When a radio goes dead mid-contact, you know what that means. Either they're fighting for their lives, or they've already lost. We didn't need orders. We formed the convoy in minutes. 2 Humvees up front, each mounting a minigun. Our Iraqi operators behind them. My team at the rear. 30 men. Heading straight into hell. Because when your brothers are dying, you don't think. You move, and you fight. We drove straight into it, no time to think, no time to hesitate. Everything we'd trained for, it wasn't enough. As soon as we cleared the outer streets of Najaf, the air changed, thicker, hotter, heavier. Smoke hung low, waves of dust rolled across the road like fog, and somewhere ahead, men were fighting to stay alive. The radios crackled with broken transmissions. I could hear gunfire bleeding through, screams, calls for ammo. Then, Silence. That kind of silence makes your heart sink. Because when a team stops calling back, it usually means there's no one left to speak. But we didn't slow down. Couldn't. Every man in that convoy knew we were too late already, but none of us were willing to accept it. "Contact front," Ramirez shouted from the turret. Then the first rounds hit. Bullets cracked past the lead vehicle. I watched sparks kick off the metal. The windshield spiderwebbed in seconds. Our convoy came under fire from both sides. Left, right, rooflines, windows, berms. They were everywhere. "Push through," I ordered. Ramirez's minigun spun up, roaring to life. Brass rained down. The roar of the weapon shook the entire Humvee. But the enemy didn't fall back. They pushed forward. I knew instantly, this wasn't a gang of insurgents with AKs. These were soldiers. Disciplined, coordinated, trained. They used cover, they maneuvered, they closed the distance like a professional unit. And that terrified me. We took fire from all sides. My operator started dropping into the dirt, firing back desperately. An Iraqi next to me took a round to the neck, dropped instantly. Another man froze beside his body. I screamed, "Move, get down, fire!" But his eyes were wide with fear. I sprinted forward, grabbed his vest and shoved him behind a truck. That hesitation nearly got him killed. An RPG slammed into the wall meters from us. The blast rattled my skull. I hit the ground hard. My ears rang, my vision blurred. When I stood, the world felt slower. Then came the hit. Something slammed into my left arm. I didn't feel pain, just the impact. I dropped behind the Humvee, pulled my sleeve back, blood everywhere. But the arm still moved, barely. I tightened a tourniquet and forced myself back up. No time to stop. Not here. My radio crackled. 2 wounded, 322 pinned, can't hold. I looked ahead. Barely 50 meters away, their vehicles were surrounded. They weren't fighting anymore. They were just trying to stay alive. "Ramirez, advance!" He couldn't. His turret jammed. Spent brass casings jammed beneath the rotating ring. I watched in horror as he struggled to clear it. Then I saw him. A fighter, 10 meters away. RPG raised, aimed directly at us. "Ramirez, RPG, 10 o'clock. But Ramirez couldn't turn the turret. He didn't hesitate. He drew his sidearm and fired. 1 magazine, 12 rounds, all center mass. The enemy dropped. The RPG rolled down the berm, harmless. I jumped onto the hood, kicked the jammed brass clear, handed him a grenade. Without looking, he pulled the pin and lobbed it over the wall. I climbed down. He cleared the jam, and his minigun roared to life again. But it wasn't enough. "Advance," I ordered. Not a single man questioned me. We pushed forward, firing from the hip, firing blind around corners. Every step forward felt impossible. We lost 2 more Iraqis clearing the next alley, both gunned down by machine guns positioned inside the compound. But their deaths bought us seconds. Seconds we needed. My men formed a firing line across the street. We fired everything we had. I remember reloading until my fingers bled. My throat burned from dust and smoke, and still, they kept coming. That's when it hit me. We weren't going to win this. We weren't going to break through. We were going to die here. All of us. Unless we did something. Then I heard it, a voice over the radio, barely audible. "Helicopter down, pilots, need evac." The nightmare just got worse. An Apache had been shot down near the compound, and now we had a new mission. Protect the crash site, recover the pilots, or what was left of them. I made the call. Push, push, all elements, advance now. My men advanced without hesitation. We had no choice. We fought forward, step by step, through the blood, through the smoke, through the chaos. Hours passed. We broke through the last alleyway, found the helicopter, a twisted black carcass, both pilots gone, nothing left to save. But our mission wasn't over. We formed a perimeter. Guns overheating, tires shredded, ammo nearly gone, but we held, suppressing enemy movement, holding the site, waiting for dark, and praying someone was coming. The sun began to fall, but the enemy didn't. They kept coming, wave after wave, firing from alleys, moving between buildings. We held the perimeter around the downed Apache, barely. I looked around our position. What had started as 30 men now felt like half. 2 Humvees sat smoking, tires shredded, miniguns overheated, barrels warped. We had almost nothing left, a few belts of ammo, half-empty magazines, 2 working radios. Every man was coated in dust, sweat, and blood, our own and theirs. Ramirez crouched beside me, his face pale. I didn't need to ask. I could see the fear in his eyes, but also something else. Determination. Neither of us said a word, because there was nothing left to say. As darkness crept over Najaf, the firefight shifted. The enemy wasn't pushing as hard now. We could hear them moving, but the pressure dropped. They were pulling back. Not because we'd won, because we'd survived long enough. Then the radio crackled. Raptor actual, reinforcement inbound, 2 mics, 2 minutes. I looked at Ramirez. You believe that? He just shook his head, but we hoped. Those last 2 minutes felt like 2 lifetimes. Every shadow looked like an enemy fighter. Every sound made me flinch. I kept my rifle up, but my hands were trembling. Not from fear, from exhaustion. I'd been awake over 30 hours at that point, 18 of them spent fighting. Then finally headlights, dust trails, friendlies, Task Force Raptor. They rolled in fast. Strikers, fresh weapons, fresh soldiers. They formed a wall between us and the city. We were done. I gave the order to pull back, 1 vehicle at a time, cover each other. No one moves alone. Slow, controlled, precise, like we'd practiced. But it felt like I was moving ghosts. Men too tired to speak, too wounded to think, barely alive yet somehow still fighting. By the time we reached Camp David, we didn't even look like soldiers anymore. Our uniforms were ripped, burned, and stained. Every vehicle looked like it had been through a meat grinder. Some of the guys fell asleep before the trucks even stopped. I collapsed onto a concrete floor. Didn't bother with a bed. And I slept, like I'd been shot with a tranquilizer, 12 hours straight. Didn't move once. When I woke up, the war was still waiting, because less than 24 hours later, we were back out again. New mission, new objective, same enemy, because that's what we do. We fight, we bleed, we survive, then we go back. The aftermath report said over 400 enemy were killed. Some said 600. No one knew for sure. What I knew was simple. We lost 2 of our own, 14 wounded, and somehow I was still breathing. The Army of Heaven, that's what they called themselves. Not militia, not terrorists, soldiers, disciplined, organized, and deadly. They weren't amateurs, they weren't insurgents, they were a real army, and we fought them to the last bullet. Weeks later, I stood in front of my unit, a silver star pinned to my chest, 3rd highest award for valor. But as they read the citation, I didn't feel heroic, I didn't feel proud, I just felt tired, because I knew the truth. I didn't earn that medal. We did. Every man who stood beside me, every Iraqi who picked up a rifle, every gunner who kept firing when the turret jammed, every man who died that day. That medal belongs to them, not me. People always ask me the same question after hearing what happened in Najaf. What's the worst part? Most think it's the gunfire, or the explosions. Maybe it's the moment I got hit, or when I watched men I cared about get cut down right in front of me. They're wrong. The worst part is the silence afterward. That moment when the fight is over, when your adrenaline fades, when the gunfire stops and you're still standing, but not everyone else is. I remember walking through the aftermath, past burnt-out vehicles, over shattered concrete, and through pools of blood that were starting to dry in the desert heat. And I remember thinking, why am I alive? Why not Ramirez? Why not the Iraqi gunner who caught that bullet to the face? Why not the pilots? Why not anyone else? Why me? And I still don't have an answer. Some say fate, some say luck. I don't believe in either. Sometimes, survival just happens. I carried that question home. I carried it for years, still carry it now. It's heavier than my rifle ever was. But alongside that question, I carry something else. Respect. Not for myself, but for the men who fought beside me. For the Iraqis who refused to quit. For Ramirez, who drew his pistol when the machine gun failed. For the guys who stood up when it would have been easier to lay down and die. That's what war taught me. It's not about glory, it's not about medals, it's about choices. In the worst moments, when everything falls apart, when you're bleeding and exhausted and scared out of your mind, you still choose to move forward, even when you're certain you won't survive it. People think courage means you're fearless. No, courage means you're terrified, and you do it anyway. I wasn't brave that day in Najaf. Neither were my men. We were scared, all of us, but we fought, because that's what soldiers do. We fight, and we never stop. Weeks later, someone mailed me my old uniform top, the one I wore that day. There's a hole in the sleeve, right where the bullet tore through. Blood stains, dust stains. It sits in a box now, not because I want to remember that day, but because I can't afford to forget it. Every time I see that shirt, it reminds me of one simple truth. Life isn't promised. Survival isn't earned, it's just given, for reasons we may never understand. I'm no hero. None of us were. We were just soldiers, trying to get home. If this story left an impact on you, hit the like button and subscribe for more real battlefield stories told without filters. Drop a comment below. I read every one. What does survival mean to you? And remember, not every hero wears a medal. Sometimes, survival itself is the victory. Stay strong, stay honorable. See you in the next mission.